Hello and welcome all. The topic of discussion today is on mindset. And well, could we get straight into things?
Yeah, roles reversed. I'm in the hot seat this time.
Fantastic. So, first question to you is, what is your relationship with overthinking?
Used to be a chronic overthinker. It is something I battled with throughout my high school and young adult life, and is something I recently, I believe, made tremendous strides in. I will get straight into a personal story. In my first year of university in Pretoria, I was writing my chemistry exam online. I was at my girlfriend's house because it was during COVID. Everything was online. And I had a full-blown anxiety and panic attack. I had to stop writing the exam halfway through. And that was the first time I had a full-blown panic attack. And that was really a light bulb moment in my life. I then realized it's something I really have to work on. And I've always been the type to overthink, to always be my harshest critic, to have that intrinsic self-reflection and to be okay with being alone, which I do believe is pivotal for development and for personal growth. You need to be able to self-analyze, you need to be able to self-critique in order to improve. And that's something I believe a lot of people who are more social butterflies, let's say, true extroverts who get their energy from being around other people, they often struggle a lot more with quieting their mind, entering that state of personal reflection, spending time with just them and their thoughts, whether that is meditation, whether that is prayer.
And do you have a sort of pre-game ritual to get yourself into this space?
So meditation is something I've used very heavily, and it's sort of quieting down my mind and trying to enter a sphere of gratitude for the things I have in my life that I often take for granted, and the opportunities I have, the place that I am currently at. And I try to operate from that sphere of mind because I believe very strongly that gratitude is the opposing emotion to fear. I believe you cannot be grateful and be fearful at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. And I really do resonate with that. I really do believe that if you're grateful for what you have, you don't really fear what's to come. Again, full, complete gratitude for what you have. I would actually like to put a quote through to you by Marcus Aurelius.
The goat himself.
Somebody who you put me on, and it's from Meditations. And the quote pretty much reads, "The mind freed from passions is an impenetrable fortress. A person has no more safe place of refuge for all time." And just stemming off of that, I'd like to ask, what's your relationship with your mind?
I believe that quote, Marcus Aurelius, is referring to a meditative state, a state of deep intrinsic self-reflection, which he is known for. He's known for criticizing himself, and the whole book Meditations is his personal diary written to himself, not censored to be published, because it wasn't meant to be publicized. His own ideas of Stoic philosophies and principles of how he can improve himself for the betterment of his people and the people around him, bearing in mind that at the time he was the most powerful person in the known world. He was the Roman emperor at the height of the Roman Empire. So you get a unique aperture through which you can view one of the greatest minds of all time, one of the greatest leaders of all time, and you can read his personal works and his personal diaries of such a reflective man. Sorry, what was the question again? I went off on a bit of a rant. It was my relationship with my mind.
Yes, it was your relationship with your mind.
So my relationship is, like I said, being my harshest critic, and also having to realize that I can be very analytical, but also very harsh in my criticism of myself. And that's something I had to deal with and realize to be able to work around that in a constructive manner.
Okay, thanks for sharing. And I mean, it's a very interesting insight. Not very many people are willing to admit that they're own harshest critics. And it takes a really big person to admit something like this. And well, I guess a whole analogy that I like to think of behind what drives us is the whole idea of the carrot and the stick. The carrot being extrinsic and intrinsic motivators, and the stick being, well, the stick. It's just,
Yeah.
well, do you believe in this model? What's your carrot? What's your stick?
I believe a lot more in the carrot than I do the stick.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe as a starting point, discipline is good. You have to have some rigidity, especially as a young man. You need a routine. You need those values instilled into you that can help you a lot later on in life. But I believe you need to align why you are doing something with your higher purpose. And that becomes the intrinsic carrot, as you said. And aligning what you are doing, why you are doing it with your higher self, and focusing on the input rather than the output is something I learned from John Gabb, one of my mentors in the mindset space. You want to break down your goal, your very shallow goal that you have at the moment of whether it's financial. Let's use the example of having $1 million liquid. You need to be able to break that down into its core fundamental belief structure, why it is meaningful to you. So you ask, why do I want this? What would I do with it? Okay, me personally, it then allows me to take responsibility and to care for the people around me, to be the rock that those people can rely on, come to for help. I can give the people I care about the most experiences that they wouldn't be able to afford themselves. So these are my intrinsic motivators. And at every level you ask, okay, that's my answer. Then I ask why again. Why do I feel the need to provide? Why do I feel the need to be a rock? Okay, that's an interesting one. I came from a single mother household. I had to be the rock from a young age because I had an absent father. And why do I feel the need to spoil my loved ones? Because I watched the hardship, particularly my mother went through, to provide the best life she possibly could for me, and I want to repay her. Okay, we ask why again. Why do I feel the need to repay her? And all of that was stemming, that deeper reason why was this crippling sense of unworthiness of my current situation, of the beautiful mother that birthed me, of my entire upbringing, my childhood. And when you get to that level, that deep level of why, you will recognize it immediately because you will have goosebumps that you cannot control. And then you need to take this belief structure. Okay, you have broken down your beliefs in why you want to achieve something. You have your higher purpose. Now, how do you get to the point where, going back to the carrot example, where you become the person that the actions come naturally to that move you towards your goal? You need to focus on the input, which is being, rather than the output, which is doing or having. So the goal used to be, let's take the surface level goal of having $1 million liquid. You flip it on its head. I am fascinated now with the person I have to become in order to attract that wealth naturally through who I am as a person, through my network, through my connections, through my trustworthiness, through my financial literacy, through my business ventures, through the high income skills that I have learned. And that person who I need to become, my higher self, my fullest potential, that's what then motivates me. And that makes discipline almost redundant.
That is an incredibly interesting take. And well, I guess I would like to ask, with you being one of the more disciplined people that I have met, how would you get into cycle, so to say? So obviously you have emotional drivers, which I'll get back into, but how do you get into, well, action? How do you get into taking action? How do you move between thinking to being?
Like I just defined, define what you want to achieve and why. Know your deep reason why, your intrinsic reason, and use that as what you are moving towards as the carrot. But also a useful skill is think about the negatives. What happens if you don't achieve your higher self, if you don't achieve the goal that you need to achieve, that you want to achieve? You could link it to, for instance, I need to make this amount of money to be there for my family. Okay, what happens if you don't do it? What happens if your mom now comes to you in her old age and she needs private medical care in Switzerland for a very rare type of cancer. And you now have to deal with the fact that you chose to be a bum. You chose not to put in the work. And you have to look your mom dead in the eye and say, I didn't make it. I didn't do what I knew I should have to put me into position to take care of you. And that is a deep reason. Human beings need something to move towards, but more importantly, they need something to run away from. They need fear driving them. What happens if they don't do it? And once you get to a reason like that, you will become so uncomfortable that you have to move towards your goal.
Absolute shivers. Something really profound that I would like to bring up is the whole notion of discipline. See, you mentioned that discipline really, you feel like it's not really as important as having that reason why. That's your carrot and stick.
Once you have built up the belief structure and you know the person you need to become, it becomes natural. Yes.
100%. Now, see, what if I told you that with recent profound discoveries in neuroscience, we now know that discipline is actually an emotion?
Okay, define.
See, I saw your facial expression change there. See, now, if you think about it, neuroscience as a whole has taught us that we have one emotional center in the brain, and that's the amygdala. All of our emotions root through there, and it's sort of like one complex mesh that tells us everything, but that's the part that pings whenever we feel something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, recent research shows that it's actually circuitry in our brain that works together in order to depict different emotions. But the main thing that shows up in our emotional center, the amygdala, is, well, sad emotions. Think about it. You don't go to a therapist to become funnier. You go to a therapist because you're sad.
Okay.
Now, with this whole discovery tying into the notion of discipline, we really got to break down what discipline is. Now, discipline is such an intangible thing. In the modern day, we think it's waking up at 4 a.m, forcing yourself to take cold showers, doing hard things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, since it's such an intangible thing, let's look at what discipline isn't. What's the opposite of discipline? Now, if you're not disciplined, you have a wavering mind. Now, we need to think, what's the opposite of having a wavering mind? What's the opposite of having self-doubt, which is an emotion? You feel self-doubt. It's having an unwavering mind,
Mm-hmm.
which is complete and total alignment in the idea that you can achieve something. It's belief. It's really and truly believing in yourself.
Conviction. And
Exactly. And well, we have a different word for that, slightly more accurate, is resolve.
mm-hmm.
So through our little derivation, we can circle back to the fact that discipline is resolve. Discipline is an emotion. And genuinely, if you really think back to it, when you feel like you believe in yourself, when you feel like you can accomplish something, that's when you're your most disciplined. Because really, discipline is a feeling above all else. It's not waking up early. It's not jumping in cold showers for the sake of it. It's really, truly, and deeply believing in yourself. Because if you have that belief, if you have that reason why, there's nothing stopping you.
And I believe you can only achieve that resolve when it is then aligned with your higher purpose.
Exactly. I mean, again, resolve, full belief, full understanding.
Mm-hmm.
That is ultimately discipline. Again, tying into discipline and tying into all of this, something we've spoken about is conviction, resolve, manifestation, actually,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of self-belief. But I guess the big conflict is, where does that self-belief and manifestation hit the ego? Where do they collide? How do you keep a level head and still believe that you're capable of doing something?
It's something I'm dealing with currently where I believe I am a G. I can achieve these things. I can achieve anything I put my mind to inside the realm of what is possible. Something that I deem valuable, I can move towards it and I can achieve it. I do have that self-belief. But it can then be construed as cockiness or as arrogance or as narcissism or vanity. And that is something that I'm working on to try and tone that down and add a little bit more of humility into my character traits. And it's something I look to mentors for, particularly Marcus Aurelius in Meditations, because he wrote that at the height, being the most powerful man, and he didn't let his ego get to him. He focused on keeping his ego in check. How can he better himself for the betterment of his people? And that's where I take a lot of advice from, particularly when I'm at the point where someone will call me out on it, or whether I'll notice it myself in my speech or in my actions.
And the lovely thing about meditations, you mentioned Marcus Aurelius, is at the beginning of the book, I'm pretty sure it's the entire first book, is just dedicated to lessons he's learned from those around him.
Mm-hmm.
Realizing that, well, while he is self-made, he's not self-made.
And it makes you understand the importance of mentors and tutors. Every single great leader, king, Socrates, Marcus Aurelius, everyone had mentors, they had tutors, they had people they looked to for guidance who were experts in that field, who they were in a unique position back in the day, being in positions of power, positions of opulence, that they could choose any teacher from their region, their realm, and learn from them in a particular aspect that they deemed worthy. Now, we have the unique opportunity of being in the digital age where we can do that through YouTube, through Instagram, through social media, through private communities. You can find mentors in whatever aspect you want to better yourself in and gain access to them, where previously it wasn't possible, because now we have the World Wide Web. Everything is connected. And that is something I urge you to leverage and take advantage of, particularly.
100%. At this point in time, it's really hard to get our head around the fact that we can message somebody tens of thousands of kilometers away and get an instantaneous response from them. What's stopping you from catering, or what's stopping you from making this cater to your needs? What's stopping you from leveraging it? Very profound.
And what's stopping you from being a producer rather than a consumer? We are also in the digital age, the digital gold rush, where you need to leverage the internet and everything it provides. You need to not be a puppet. You need to not be trapped in the machine of scrolling for the algorithm. You need to stop being the product that you're being sold to advertising companies. You need to start producing, putting something out there, building your personal brand, whatever it is that you need to do to add to this attention economy.
100%. I mean, in terms of taking advantage of a personal brand, that's the very reason we're sitting here right now.
Yeah.
Building ourselves, leveraging this, and using this as a position to do something that we see other people doing.
And using it for an opportunity of self-reflection and self-analysis for the betterment of bettering our speech.
Now, something that you've mentioned is mentors, especially in regards to Marcus Aurelius. And so I'd really like to ask you, who are some of your mentors and what lessons have you learned from them?
So Marcus Aurelius, when it comes to realizing that you are not special, he has a particular quote that says, anything that's happening to you is an experience that's natural to all human beings. So that ties into the fact where you can take responsibility for any point you are in. Whether even if you feel like you have been cheated by the world, even if you feel that you have been done wrong, you accept responsibility and accept that anything that is happening to you is natural. It's something that can only happen to other human beings. And you can take solace in the fact that you're most probably not alone. And obviously balancing ego and humility is where I look to Marcus Aurelius. In terms of mindset, I look to John Gabb for your higher purpose, understanding your fundamental belief structure, phrasing your goals in such a manner that they align with your higher purpose and you understand your deep reason why. That becomes an amazing motivator. Jordan Peterson for the way he speaks, the way he thinks, how he phrases his answers, the way he uses his tongue as a weapon in the modern day. He also has an amazing quote, but he leans on quite heavily in his lectures. Those who have swords but keep them sheathed will inherit the world. And I believe that is a metaphor in the current day to your weapons being your words, your eloquent speech, how you can handle yourself in conversation. Another mentor of mine to touch on the final aspect would then be Luke Belmore for cryptocurrency, for the e-commerce space through the entrepreneurial mindset and a lot of the health benefits. He is very intact with the things that we put into our body and regarding our body as a temple.
That's amazing. And actually, on Luke Belmar, there's a specific saying that he mentions quite a lot, and I'd like to get your insight on it. What does game is the game mean to you?
Game is the game. Life is a game. Gamify life. So you start looking at things through that lens, through that perspective. You need to focus on leveling up. How do you level up your character? It's not so instantaneous as a video game, but it's a level up nonetheless. How can you level up your physique? How can you become physically stronger? How can you become more aptitude in your speech, in your debating? How can you achieve financial literacy? The game is the game refers to the game that we are playing. Back in the day, the Bible was written in Latin, and you had to go through an intermediary. You had to go through a priest to be able to access the knowledge that is out there. In today's world, the language of the elite is finances. So, if you understand that the game is the game, you have to either decide to play the game and level up, or reclude and retreat back into a hole and try and hide from it. So when you understand that the game is the game, you start looking at it and say, okay, I need to pick up a book on finances. I need to become financially literate. I need to be able to speak the words of the elite, the language of the elite. I need to be able to understand what they are talking about. And then you use that game that is set out there to find your own wins, to then position yourself to get wet. I use the metaphor of getting wet. Let's say you want to make money online. You need to understand where money is flowing, where money is about to go, and position yourself in the point in the market where that water is about to move to. And you will definitely get wet if you manage to do that successfully.
Beautiful insight. And another quote from our boy, Marcus Aurelius, which
He's getting a shout out.
100% relates to the whole topic at hand, is receive without pride and let go without attachment. Again, gamify things. The more that you hold on to that's tangible, the less that you hold on to in your character.
Don't clog up your inventory, bro. You're over encumbered.
Indeed, you only got 32 slots, yeah?
But that ties in nicely to minimalism, which took the world by storm because some Netflix documentary came out. But I believe it's more profound in practice. It also then, you have to realize that it takes up mental space as well. All these physical things, all these headaches. You need to decide what is worth cluttering up your mental space for. You can choose to have multiple homes, to rent them out, to do arbitrage in the real estate industry. But then you also have to realize that you have to then constantly think about managing these places, even if you put people in place to manage them. You need to always think of what I like to call deferred costs, opportunity costs as well. So most people would look at a TV and they would see a new TV and they would just see the price of the TV. I now see the price of the time I have to spend sitting in front of that TV, watching that TV, and what the ROI could have been if I focused on revenue generating streams. So it's about gamifying everything. You look at something for its attributes and how it will affect your character, your player.
I love that analogy. And well, with this whole analogy of game is the game and obviously maximizing ROI and getting the best out of everything, do you believe that there's space to wind down, take a chill pill?
Yes, 100%. I believe it's important, but you also need to realize that you have your deep reason why and you need to work towards it. And I can only speak from personal experience, but if I take too long of a break, I then fall into a negative spiral of self-criticism, critically saying to myself, why are you not moving towards your goal where you know you should be? And you have this voice in the back of your head. So downtime is definitely necessary, especially for people that are prone to overworking. Yes, but I do believe everything in moderation. And there is a time in life for everything. You need to understand what the season of life is, what the current season of the game is. Is it level up season? Is it make money season? Is it grow your relationships with your family? You need to differentiate what stage you are at in your life.
Fantastic. Thank you for the insight.
Of course, man. So another quote by Luke Belmar pertaining to the game is the game is, successful people will tell you that they are self-made. Unsuccessful people won't, except they are both self-made.
So true.
And you need to observe people for their belief structure, and you need to identify, a lot of people will project external circumstances onto themselves and use that as a scapegoat, use that as a reason why they cannot achieve something. Particularly when it comes to, it ties in nicely with another quote I have from Socrates, physical training. He says that no man has the right to be an amateur in the realm of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old and to not see the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. And a lot of people that I've come across in my personal life will say they have some unique thing that makes them different from every other person on the planet. They'll say, I have a particular thyroid or hormone issue that means I cannot lose weight the same way other people lose weight. No, the same universal laws of energy storage that apply to your body that also apply to every energy storage mechanism we have out there in the known world. Calories in versus calories out. So then it becomes very important for you to understand, to take responsibility, to say that you are not unique, you are not different, but there's something very freeing in that, because then you take responsibility and realize you actually can change. And there's a very powerful notion in that. And then you have to ask, okay, do I actually want to change? Because a lot of people, they'll say they want something, but you will see in their actions that they don't actually want it. Are you interested or are you committed? Is something John Gabb always says, one of my mentors. So then we talk about how deeply do you desire it? Are you interested or are you committed? And this then goes into your whole belief structure. Again, what is your higher purpose? What do you actually value? And then I can tie this into your identity and your subconscious. So you need to then identify as the person that does these things effortlessly. I got to pose a question to you. How would you define identity?
Identity, ultimately, if somebody asked me to describe my identity, I would fire back between 3 and 5 words. But identity is really a culmination of all of your experiences, everything you've been exposed to, your belief structure, even biases, what's come into your mind from the outside world.
Yeah, 100%. And I wanted to say how much of those biases, how much of that influence you are not conscious of is part of your subconscious. Think about from when you were brought into this world. You were given a name, you were given a nationality, you were given a gender, a color, you were given a social security number, you were given a passport number and identity number. You were thrown into your first programming camp, kindergarten, where you were told to stand in straight lines under fluorescent light. You were then sat at desks arranged in rows with a bell that rang, symbolizing break time, emulating a factory work floor. You were told when you could and could not go to the bathroom. You were then told you were a failure when you did something creative that was outside of the curriculum that teachers have to enforce. And this whole idea of identity, you need to analyze your own belief structures and ask yourself, do they still serve me? Because you need to realize the difference between beliefs that serve you and beliefs that don't serve you anymore. So this is an exercise at home. Get a pen and paper, draw a line in the middle. On the left-hand side, write down your current beliefs that you hold pertaining to a certain goal that you want to move towards. Let's use health and fitness, the idea of your body being a temple. So you want to achieve a certain goal or a certain fitness level or just optimize your health. You can write on the left-hand side, chocolate tastes nice. I get cravings for fast food every time I see a McDonald's advert. Okay, now on the right-hand side, write the exact opposite. Food is fuel. You start looking at food from an idea of what you are fueling your vehicle, you, that's going to take you to your goals. What are you putting into it? Are you putting in the wrong fuel? Is this going to then cause breakdowns along your path? Are you going to run into complications related to this? And the whole idea of your body being a temple, I can ask you, relating to junk food, let's take this metaphor of an actual temple, of an altar. would you put seed oils, fast food, carcinogenic causing foods on an altar and offer that to the temple, to the higher power? I would hope that even if you did, that it would be rejected. In the same way the Bible states that if you do not take care of the temple, God will destroy it. In the same way that your body will physically start self-destructing when you put the wrong fuel in it, when you do something that goes against it naturally. You develop carcinogens, cancer-causing. You have a state of lethargy. You have brain fog. You have illnesses. All of these are culminations of something wrong with what you are currently putting in your body. And I have a study that I like to bring up. Professor Rosalie David said, in industrialized societies, cancer is second only to cardiovascular disease as a cause of death. But in ancient times, it was extremely rare. Nothing in the natural environment that can cause cancer. So it has to be a man-made disease, down to pollution and changes in our diet and lifestyle.
Wow, I mean, that really is a heavy hitter. Just to really put it into perspective, another challenge I'd like to give out to our listeners is go and grab a packet of chips, crisps. They're chips. Go and grab a packet of them, look at the label on the back, and tell me if you can name more than 5 of those ingredients, and explain to me exactly what they are without pulling up Google on your phone. We don't know what's in there. Half of these things, preservatives, flavorings, sweeteners, are horrible.
Colorants, Red 40.
Exactly. And as humans, we are so used to having whole foods. We're still developed as prehistoric, or not prehistoric, sorry. We are still developed as really simple creatures. We cherish carbohydrates. We cherish sugars. We need more of proteins. We need more of whole foods, things that give us nutrients. But when we get sugars, when we get carbohydrates, we get the feeling of stuffing our faces, really indulging and having excess amounts of it, because back in the days, there were no chips. There were no sweets that you'd find on the side or growing on trees. There was no chocolate.
You need to ask yourself whether that feeling of urgency to consume something to stuff your face is actual hunger, or whether it is an addiction that has been programmed into you through habitual traits, through marketing. So this is, again, where you need to lean into self-reflection and self-analysis and question your belief structure, why you do certain things you do, and are those things moving you towards where you want to be and the person you want to become? And if not, then cut it out.
Genuinely. And think back, when is the last time you ate genuine, clean, whole foods? When's the last time you got your sources of sugar from things like fruits? I have met people who have told me that they have not eaten an apple in weeks, months, years. It's such an abnormal thing for us to turn back to nature when we have so many artificial things put before us that, I mean, technically our body can recognize as being more valuable, but you're killing yourself. If you made it to this point in the podcast, we've already mentioned before, attention spans are at 0, so congratulations, you've done something today. So the gem for today is that there is an unprecedented amount of people who give up on their hopes, their goals, and their dreams. And this ultimately stems from one thing. What is that thing, you may be asking? It is taking accountability. See, in the world we live in, so many people will sit back and say, it's not my fault. And those 3 words kill. Because
dodge responsibility.
You're dodging responsibility. You're stepping up on your higher self. You're not becoming the person that you can become because you don't believe that anything is in your control. And the second you stop believing anything is in your control, the second you believe that you are someone else's puppet, you become exactly that. We talk about belief, we talk about manifestation, but it works in the opposite sense too. If you believe you're powerless, well, good luck getting into power. You're going to stay powerless.
100%. And I believe it's important to then realize that it's scary at first, realizing that you are responsible for everything that has happened to you, especially as a man. You need to take absolute and utter responsibility for every single situation you find yourself in. Now, once you do that, you also then realize that you are also the solution. you then realize that it's actually in your power to change, to control, and you can move forward and make strides to fix your current situation.
100%. And with you being able to take responsibility and take accountability for where you are, really take time, do the exercise that we've given you, sit down with a piece of paper. This is a separate exercise now. And really write down your reason why. Internalize it, chalk it down, break it down. What is the deeper reason behind what you are doing? And really write down every single thing that's not your fault. Chalk it down, break it down, and see there are still faults of your own in there. You are still accountable for things that technically aren't your fault.
I think everyone realizes they're not perfect, but when it comes to their goals, they somehow believe that external factors are the reason hindering their success. Now, particularly with your reason why, you need to go deeper than the surface level. You need to write down your reason why, understand that it is surface level, look at the next stage. Okay, why do I want to achieve this? Look at the next stage, ask why again, get down deep and dirty and understand why it is, what motivates you, and you can understand what then you can use as your higher self.
To be completely honest, nobody wants to be told that they're lacking something. Nobody wants to be told that they're not taking accountability of something. But really, if you're not ready to step up and think, I have been lacking here, and this is actually in my hands, the place that I am right now is because of the decisions that I've made.
And most people know it. You know in your mind what you are not doing enough of, where you are not where you should be at the moment. It's just scary to admit it.
Exactly. Again, it's stepping up on your higher self. You're not doing what you can do. And I'll admit, even I'm in that place sometimes. Even I will be saying that I'm doing certain things. Even I will be aiming to do certain things. But I'll be stepping up on my higher self. I won't be doing them. There will be me saying that I'm doing a certain amount of things, but I really won't be taking every step necessary in my power to get where I need to get. Why? It's human nature. We want to be comfortable. We want to sit there. But now, if you're living a life of comfort, are you growing? Are you getting anything that you really want if you're happy where you are now? Why improve? When you really go deeper and deeper into your reason why, you really start to chunk down and realize, once again, what is your fault? The second you take responsibility and you take accountability, see, now no one wants to admit that they're wrong, as I said, but it's the beauty in admitting that you're wrong, that you get to see the space for growth. There's a really famous saying out there, again, it's become more of a common word.
More of a cliche. Yeah.
Exactly. Nobody really knows exactly where it came from. But it's okay to feel down when you start somewhere, because, you know, sometimes you don't have the best of circumstances. I'll guarantee there are people out there with much worse circumstances than I've ever found myself in my life.
Jordan Peterson says anything worth doing is worth doing badly. You have to realize that when you start, you will be a novice. But if it is something that is aligned with where you want to go, then it is worth doing. It is worth doing badly to start, because it is the first step in taking action. Leonardo da Vinci famously said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. There is simplicity in actually taking action. Take that first step. See what doors open to you. See what opportunities you have to improve.
I'm going to leave you with another quote from our boy, Aurelius, which says, choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been harmed. If you treat every single bump in the road as a mountain, trust me, you are never going to make it over. You are never going to make it to the end of the path. You are going to get stopped. You're going to blame yourself. You're going to blame the mountain. You're going to blame the road. You're going to blame everything except for the fact that you just did not keep trying. If you see it as a mountain, it becomes a mountain. If you fall down and decide to stay down, that's on you. Again, there's nothing wrong with starting in a certain place. There's nothing wrong from having a set of circumstances. But there is something wrong with staying exactly where you are. There is something wrong in staying stagnant. The second you stop growing, complacency sets in. You start accepting things that really don't benefit you. You start becoming complacent and comfortable. And the second you become comfortable, unless you are exactly where you need to be in life, unless everybody that you care about is taken care of fully, I don't think you have the ability to really sit down and be complacent. Are you interested or are you committed?
Thank you very much, Bob.
Thanks for the conversation as always.
Of course.
Thanks for listening, people. Take care, and we'll catch you next time.